This is how I made my final front cover. The first thing I did was open a Photoshop file. I then added the black and white brick wall background. As I say below, it'll mellow out the darker colours of the magazine and bring out the indie genre because it's outside. When you think of the independent genre, you usually think of the streets because all of the indie bands tend to come from urban areas such as Manchester. You know, like you've got Oasis, and they're always outside on their band art and things like that. And I just think the outdoorsy feel because, you know, when the independent genre was first sort of come about, there wasn't really anywhere for people to go. You know, grown men were out of jobs, so they had to find ways to entertain themselves. And I think that that's where the outdoorsy vibe of the independent genre comes from, really. So I thought that that would link in really well with that, but I need to go and find a new brick wall and retake that picture because currently this one's from Google and I'm not happy with using one from Google. So I need to find a nice white brick wall, and if that fails, then I shall take the brick background off of the front cover, contents page and double page spread and just leave it with a white background because less is more. Especially with their magazines like the Rolling Stones, not the Rolling Stones, the Rolling Stone even. That's quite plain, yet at the same time very neat and organised, and it has its own sense of indie about it still. So I could branch off towards that if I cannot find a white brick wall to take a picture of. I also burnt around the edges of the other images to make them stand out. I've done that for most of the things. I then added the images. These images I thought were quite good because, you know, they're not smiling. They've got quite a bit of the independent genre about them there. If you look at an independent magazine, you're never going to see anyone smiling. So I thought that the sort of blasé attitude was quite good. Having this pose links to my draft. I actually edited each of the pictures separately using the Refine Edge tool, which is why it's so smooth around the edge here rather than jagged. It has a bit of a glow on it as well to make it even more smooth. I also added the leaves again to give the outdoorsy feel. I feel like that's quite indie, and it sort of gives a theme to run throughout my magazine, as the masthead has the leaves on it as well. It gives it a bit of a stylistic flair as well. Then I added the leaves on the outside of the masthead, again to give it that stylistic flair and to make it more outdoorsy. It sort of brings out all of the things on the front cover. I then added the side box where I'm going to put my headlines because obviously you can't have it going over their faces, and we've got the main headline that's going to be down here. So, you know, there's not really anywhere to put it unless you put it in a box. So I decided to do that. I then added the box for the masthead and burnt where the Indie Sound logo is going to be. Obviously the headlines there have been burnt as well. I didn't want the masthead to be too big, otherwise, you know, it might seem a bit as though it's taking over, really. I then added these images. I did take the picture of the poster myself, but I think I'm going to exchange the second picture because, again, that's from Google. So I think I might just find another picture or, you know, get rid of it completely and just have the advertisement of freebies being inside. I did try and soften them out so that they didn't look so harsh on the front cover, as you can read down here. I then added the logo, which has noise on it, which I think looks quite indie. You know, it's a bit stylistic with the leaves around it. It's got a bit of a drop shadow on to make it stand out from the red and the black. I I then added the little slogan at the end there, the real sound of independent music. That's what a lot of independent magazines have, a lot of music magazines as well. They just sort of have that little one-liner that really grips you as a reader and makes you want to pick it up and have a flick through. And I thought the real sound of independent music was quite authentic, it sounds real, and it would really grab your attention, I think. Then I added the price, which I explained the pricing there in that post. Although I think I actually made a mistake on that, and the price was actually £2.50, not £3.50, from the target audience Prezi and all of that. Because on my layout drafts, the price on that is £2.50. So I think I did add the extra pound on there and didn't realise it, so I'll have to change that and edit it back to £2.50, which is more of a reasonable price for a weekly magazine. Here I added the borders at the top and bottom. I think that really frames it and, you know, draws your eyes into the picture and the headlines, and it just gives it a bit of a neater look about it. I then added the Free Oasis poster, but I think that I'm going to actually that should be more of a selling point and boom really in your face, rather than just sort of a thing on the banner. So I think I'm going to have the band names of the bands that are featured and everything on the banners instead. It would sort of just stand out a bit more. Number 13. On this one I added the website name. It's not real, but I feel like they would have the website on the front cover if it were a real magazine. I then added a date at the top right, although I think that the date, price and issue number, which I end up putting down here in the next post, I do believe, yep, there, they should be together and more of a smaller font, as magazines don't tend to make much of a show of the price, the date and the issue number. It's not really something you look at, so I'm going to edit that as well. I then started to add the headlines with the leaves on it again, as you can see in the next few of them. Again, adding headlines and things in the side box. I added noise and a drop shadow to make it stand out, but on second thoughts I might add a different font instead, rather than just having noise everywhere, because it all looks a bit samey, and on a professional magazine you tend to have one or two different fonts on there, so I think I'm going to change that as well. I also made a bit of a mistake here where I put week 16 100 days of indie, which doesn't exactly work. It doesn't make sense at all, so I had to swap it for day 16 of 100 days of indie. And there it is with all of the side headlines complete. I then added the sort of paintbrush light blue colour. I think it stands out and really makes the rapids boom. The blue colour also sort of brings out the rest of the magazine as it sort of contrasts, but doesn't completely clash with the rest of the colour scheme. I then added I wanted to make my own little glow here. I just thought it would be a bit more realistic and that, and I think it makes the writing stand out a bit more actually. All of this is explained in the text underneath. I added a drop shadow to make it stand out even more, and then I think it looks really quite stylistic and good really. You know, it'd catch your eye in a supermarket or a newsagent's where I would sell my own magazine, you know, and you know, it would make you want to pick it up and have a flick through. It's certainly eye-catching. And then added the barcode and added a bit of a drop shadow to that, and I think that's it. Yeah, so this is the final picture. I'm not completely happy with it. I am going to change a few things, but this is just my sort of first final one. It's not going to stray too much farther from this now. It's going to stay this sort of layout, this sort of colour scheme. Everything should stay the same. I might just change a few fonts. And we actually move on to that here, where I've printed it out, sort of circled the things I don't really like and what I want to change, and then I've written about it down here. So I'm going to make the masthead a bit bigger, because although I said earlier I didn't want it to sort of take up all of the space, it does need to sort of stand out a bit and have that that uniqueness about it. I need to put the date, issue number and price together and lower the price a bit, as I've said. I need to have fewer effects on the headlines, so like less noise and all that, just so, you know, to make it stand out, and use different fonts. I need to get my own picture of the white brick wall, again, as I said, and have the artists' names on the banners rather than the Free Oasis poster in that, and make the Free Oasis poster more of a show, make it pop, make it catch your eye, make it more of a unique selling point for the magazine. And this is the redraft. I actually did the N the wrong way around there, because that's clever. This is just sort of like a redraft of how it's going to look. As you can see, it's pretty much the same. You've just got the bands going across the top there. You've got the picture being a bit bigger, a bit of layering there to make it more stylistic. You've still got the paintbrush sweep and all of that there. But I've taken off all the pictures, and I'm going to have a bit more of a show of the Free Oasis poster. Maybe up here somewhere. Just to make it a little bit less busy. And all that good stuff. I've taken away a few of the leaves around here, so it's not as in your face. And I think I'm going to take away the brick wall background to make it simple, yet, you know, still eye-catching and all that. And that's all I've done for my front cover so far.